Hello, welcome to another episode of The Doctor Within, where the doctor in here is better than all of those doctors, except for this guy here, Dr. Pat Kennedy. He's a chiropractor in Salem, Virginia, recently married.
Yep, all's good.
Good guy.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Got a dog too.
Got a dog.
Yeah.
Package deal.
Living the dream.
Dog,
Picket fence.
And I'm going to be a grandpa in February.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow. That's the triple.
Wait, which thing are you the most excited about?
Ooh, that's on the spot.
Just kidding.
Being married.
Yeah, there you go.
There's hope.
Yep.
You got a chance.
And Charlie Ray, good guy, bought me lunch today, but that's not why he's a good guy. He is a good guy.
I would put him on that. He didn't buy me lunch, but
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so we got a good team here, and we've got an interesting topic.
who are you?
Oh yeah, I'm I'm John Rigdon. Yeah.
He's a nutrition geek.
Yeah,
That says it all.
Nutrition
You know
geek.
John Rigdon. Everybody knows John Rigdon.
I didn't need to announce
You didn't
myself.
have- no.
But yeah, today's episode, guys, we're talking about maintaining your mobility, and what that means is staying out of the retirement home. Because I don't know about you guys, but I want to keep my independence for as long as possible. I don't want to be a burden for people. You know, I hate to be gross, but I just want to delay someone else wiping my butt for as long as possible. And you got to have your mobility in order to, you know.
Well, we're in favor of you keeping your mobility.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in wiping your butt.
I'm not doing that.
So
either.
we're all on the same page with this goal.
Stay flexible, okay?
Stay
Yeah.
flexible. And,
But hey, let's talk about we're going to get personal.
okay.
So why are you interested in this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I've got flexibility issues. That's it's a big issue for me. You know, I've got a hip issue. I mean, it's you know, it's like a deformity. It's something I was born with. It's gotten worse over the years, you know, just as you're growing, and you know, the hip dysplasia, whatever you want to call it, like it doesn't fit. It just doesn't move very well. But I don't do as well with the stretching as I should. I mean, I'm pretty good about working out. Have a pretty intense workout twice a week, but you know, I need to do better with stretching, and that's kind of the first step of maintaining your mobility. You know, there's 3 types of stretching. You've got static stretching, isometric stretching, and dynamic stretching. And you just want to basically incorporate all of these into your basically a daily routine. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. Like
So what was that first one?
that's static stretching. And
So what does that mean?
that one's pretty basic. That's like, you know, touching your toes or
And holding the stretch.
yeah,
Holding.
Well, that's a little bit different. Well, no, you're right. That's correct.
It's
Static
like, oh my
stretching.
gosh. Fire me.
That also fits into the isometric. So, so static stretching, pretty self-explanatory. I mean, that's the one that most people probably do.
You just go and you hold it in a certain spot.
It's a good warm-up stretch before workouts. I mean, that's a good one to do. The isometric is where you get into like a static stretch position, and then you're contracting the muscle at the same time. You're lengthening it. You hold that one for 10 to 15 seconds, and that type of stretching basically increases both your strength and your flexibility. So that's probably almost more like yoga, I would say.
Yeah, it's an active type stretch, and it's great because you're stimulating, and probably get too complicated, but you're stimulating certain receptors in the tendons and the muscle itself. So when you're stretching it, but then you're contracting at the same time as stretching, then when you let go, you can stretch further.
Okay.
So, and it helps to reset that muscle that might be kind of really tight, and you're doing some isometric stuff. Eventually it starts to relax.
Okay.
So then your brain says, oh, this is where I should be instead of up here. You know, so that's an excellent stretch.
That makes sense. You're almost like training your muscles.
Right.
Yeah.
And it should be difficult.
Yeah.
It's not a...
Sounds difficult.
Yeah. It's not a relaxing stretch. It's a very active, and you can, like in yoga, you can you finish there and you're like, man, I was sweating my butt off. You know, it should be a very active physical stretching.
Okay. And then the last one is the dynamic stretching. So I'm familiar. The notes I have, like the lunge walk, like I've done that. Charlie and I've done that plenty of times. And then they talk about like rolling your neck and arm windmills and stuff. I mean, what's that all about? The dynamic stretching.
So the way I look at that is that you know, if somebody works out in the gym, you know, and they're doing bench press and they come in and they look kind of ripped with their, you know, big chest and all that stuff, it's like, you know, does that mean that they're in really good shape? You know, but somebody who can, you know, carry a ladder and, you know, 50 pounds of shingles on their shoulder and up and down the ladder all day long, that's an activity that, you know, you're actually doing something that fits in your daily routine. You know, doing bench press for 10 minutes, I mean, wow, big deal, you know, and you've got some nice rock hard pecs, but does that mean that you can have the endurance to actually do a job that requires you to do body movements all day long? So dynamic stretching, I think, is great because it puts you in a dynamic situation where you're doing things like, you know, doing a dynamic lunge stretch. You know, that will help somebody who is picking something off the kitchen floor, you know, and, you know, as we get older, we get stiffer, and, you know, people getting on and off the floor is difficult. And if they fall, they have trouble getting back up.
Yeah.
So if you're doing these dynamic stretches, you're actually training your brain to make sure that you're able to do things that, you know, normal people should do. You know, you should be able to bend over and tie your shoes.
Yeah.
You should be able to.
Functional fitness, right?
Functional
Real
fitness.
life, yeah.
Real life
stuff,
activities,
yeah.
right.
And also it sounds like sustaining, like muscle strength and flexibility.
And endurance
too.
and all that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm a person. This is good because I've learned like different types of stretching and what it is.
Yeah.
But for me, to motivate myself to do stuff, I have to know why.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why bother stretching? Right? And as I get older, it's occurring to me that it's becoming more and more important to me as an individual. You know, as a young person, I wanted to lift stuff and look good and have the women, you know, take a second look and
Which
all that.
turned out good.
Well, you know,
Right.
I was blessed
Very blessed.
with short-sighted, nearsighted women. But anyway, so I did just a little bit of research to kind of just figure out. I mean, I know some of these things intuitively. You know, like you mentioned functional, you know, capacity, and you know, definitely, you know, I don't want to be 70 years old and, you know, topple over when the wind blows. And I know that probably, you know, flexibility is going to play as big a part in that as actual muscle strength. So I kind of know that intuitively.
Even
but
probably more so.
Right. And so, but I wanted to kind of dig in a little more and figure out what are some of the other, you know, advantages to stretching. And, you know, one is, and you probably know this, is just reducing injury risk, right? Like you're less inclined. I mean, what happens to old people that aren't flexible versus people, say, that are flexible in terms of injuries?
Yeah. Stuff breaks.
Fractures, right? Like things can just break from not moving right.
They can rip tendons off of bones and stuff because they're so drawn up and brittle.
Yeah.
And I've seen those. Those are avulsion fractures.
Okay.
You know, you step off a curb, and because everything's so tight, those tendons, when you kind of roll your ankle, instead of just, you know, stretching, they actually crack the bone that it's inserted in. And now you got a big problem, you know, and so.
Well, and then just the coordination component. If you have range of motion, if you stumble or something, if you've got really good range of motion, you can literally bend your body in a way to just literally catch yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got no flexibility and you just fall, you're just
That's
gravity's
a really
going to get
good
you.
point. I mean, just being able to put yourself in a position to fall, like break your fall gracefully. You know, that's never thought about that.
Well, that's kind of a range of motion argument. But what I was reading in my research is that it actually facilitates muscle coordination.
Yeah.
So you become more coordinated. by being more flexible. So you're there's a fancy word for it. I'm going to read it: proprioceptive response.
Proprioceptive.
Yeah, it basically just, you can maybe help us understand that word.
It means that your body parts are aware of where they are in
space. It's like a self-awareness in space.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so that's cool.
Which is important because, like you mentioned, as we age, that's one of the big things. People are afraid of falling.
Sure.
Because they're starting to walk around really timid, and they bend over to try to make sure they're close to the ground, they're looking, and their proprioception gets off. So you can just go like this and boom, they fall over because they're not aware of where their body is in space anymore.
Cool.
Well,
that's wild. It's like you're adding brains to your nervous system. By being flexible. I mean, that's kind of a wild idea.
I like it. So I quickly want to go over the next one, which is foam rolling, because the third one I think is we kind of have an expert here to discuss the third key to maintaining mobility.
Pressure. I'm feeling pressure.
Yeah, but so foam rolling, and
this has become kind of the rage in the gyms, right? Over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah,
people are rolling around on foam rollers, and I guess there's a lot to it. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. I like them.
I have a personal experience with that, and that is, when I first started, I worked out kind of casually on my own, but when I got more seriously into structured workouts with a trainer, one of the first things he introduced me to was a foam roller, and I didn't even know what a problem I had with my IT bands, those outer parts of your legs.
Tight, aren't they?
First time on a foam roller, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
it hurt.
Wow.
It hurt.
It hurt.
Yeah.
But, like, so fast, everything felt so much better.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
It's weird how, you don't know some of the problems you have until you remove them. But anyway, so I'm, like, huge into foam rolling. It really works.
Awesome.
You got to go slow with it in the beginning, especially. You got to.
They do recommend that. They recommend a softer, something that's padded. But there are some maniacs out there that they use the PVC pipes, and I mean they're just right in there. But that's it's effective. It's
so what's it
therapeutic.
doing, Doc? So when you're on a foam roll, what is happening?
Well, what did your research come up with?
So the fancy word that I found with foam rolling is self-myofascial release, SMR.
Like trigger point release kind of
SMR.
stuff.
So that's kind of the key. It relieves the muscle tightness, soreness, inflammation, increases your range of motion. It can even temporarily reduce the appearance of cellulite. So I mean, if you're
now
going
you
to
got
the
people
beach,
interested.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to the beach and you've got a little cellulite,
You gotta iron that
roll
stuff
it out, and you're
iron it
good.
out, man.
You're good for the weekend.
Wow.
Bring your foam roller to the beach.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I this is where I could try to jump in. So that you mentioned myofascial. So fascial is it's if you think about saran wrap. So you take some steak, right, which is muscle, and you wrap it in saran wrap. That the saran wrap is like fascia, so it wraps around muscle tissue.
Okay.
So when you have injuries, that the saran wrap kind of gets crinkled up, and now you've got fat that's also there, so it can make it look dimply.
Okay.
Cellulite.
Yeah.
Ah.
So when the fascia, if you go in and you get a massage, it's working on the muscle. But rollers actually it's constantly rolling across those twisted up and bunched up saran wrap, the fascia.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have probably heard of plantar fasciitis.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's in the foot, so that's the fascia in the foot. And so when that arch starts to collapse and that muscle fatigues, you start bunching up that fascia and you put your foot on the ground, you're like, and it really hurts. So, they tell you, take a bottle of water, freeze it, and then just keep rolling it back and forth. You're doing the same thing.
Okay.
It's freezing it and decreasing inflammation, and it's kind of ironing out that fascia so that now the muscle can work good, because that fascia adheres to the muscle, starts pulling that muscle together, and you start getting bumps and lumps and trigger points, and sore muscle area. So working that out keeps that muscle nice and long, and it starts to flatten out that fascia. So, and you don't get that with typical massage or other things, but you do with rolling, foam rollers.
That is awesome. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the third part here for maintaining mobility. It's chiropractic.
Yeah.
We've got a good one here.
Where?
Right
my.
here. So,
Okay.
I mean,
So what did your research say?
My quick thing. So, and you've educated us a lot on this. I mean, but yeah, it's aligning the spine. That's important. But my biggest takeaway from what you do is getting the nervous system to function the way it's supposed to. I mean, every time I hear you talk about what you're doing, you talk about the nervous system. I mean, you're impacting the brain, and you're impacting, obviously the spine and the spinal cord, but nerves throughout the entire body. Obviously, they're all connected. So yeah, I mean that it makes sense that would play a big role in maintaining mobility.
Yeah. So I know we don't have a lot of time in this, but so I want to use, and it just popped into my head when you were saying that, I want to use an illustration. So because Charlie was talking about, stretching, flexibility, and injury prevention. So as we get older, we get stiffer. And then because we're stiff, things tend to hurt. So you tend to be like, well, I don't walk anymore because it hurts. So they get less and less and less active, more and more stiff. Things get more and more brittle. So, and the old saying is, you don't use it,
Use it or lose it.
you'll lose it, right? So you can now, all of a sudden, you used to be able to back the car up and turn your head around. Now you're going like this. Well, that's a hazard. Okay, so now you're not only dangerous to yourself, but dangerous to others. But so let's just take this illustration. And I had a patient that this case was phenomenal, like 20 something years ago. So this lady came in with migraine headaches, and she'd been everywhere. She had injections and everything. And they were talking about doing surgeries and, all kinds of procedures. They wanted to go into her brain and look at her blood vessels and all this stuff. And she heard that I helped people with migraines. So she came in, and I'm looking at her and I'm saying, did you ever sprain your ankle? And she's like, when I was like 12. And she's like in her 60s. And she goes, what's that have to do with my migraines? And I said, I don't know. I said, but you're standing there and your ankle looks weird. And she had this migraine on the right side of her head for 15 years. She said it felt like an ice pick in there. And she said, she'd have to get into a dark room, and, her whole life was just rough. And she's taking all these drugs and nothing's helping her. And I said, well, I don't want to do what everybody else has been doing. I said, but that right ankle looks terrible, and it's on the right side. And so we scanned her feet, and sure enough, what happened was she had a typical sprained ankle like we all do, but she never got it treated. She just, put some ice on it, took some ibuprofen, and went on. And when you're 12,
Sure.
After whatever, you're kind of like, it's fine. But what happened was her ankle kind of solidified in that area, and it didn't work as good. So those muscles on the right side of her calf got tight. So the brain, the biocomputer, that's why we talk nervous system all the time, the biocomputer was like, well, this isn't working good, so we're going to recruit some other muscles. So the hip on the other side got real tight. And she said, yeah.
To compensate.
Yeah, I got, and foam rolling on that was painful to her. And she's like, I never heard that before. But because of this stinking age 12, and now almost 50 years later, she's now compensated, and now her hip is bothering her. But she's into me because of the migraines. And I said, well, I think I can help you with your migraines, but I'm going to have to fix a lot of stuff. I mean, let's start with your feet. And she was like, this is weird. Well, so anyway, I started adjusting her ankle. We loosened up her other hip. And as her medical history was unfolding, was that, think about this, and I don't want to lose the audience. Flexibility is so important. So now she's got this old injury that's just really locked in there. Her brain is now making decisions and saying, well, we got to tighten up the left hip to compensate for this. We need to drop this shoulder. And now she starts irritating the nerves in her neck. pinching nerves in her neck, which aren't showing up on MRI and CAT scans and all this other stuff. So they're looking, and now they're thinking, I'm going to go into the brain and look at blood vessels, when all we needed a chiropractic adjustment to actually open that up. But then she's going to walk around with this stinking ankle again, and it comes back again.
Reset it, yeah.
But now the brain's also making other decisions. So her ankle swells anytime there's a problem. And now the brain says, well, we got swelling in the ankle, so we got to increase blood pressure to get the fluid out of the ankle. So she's got high blood pressure. She's got digestive disorders because, now they're straining her digestive system because it's trying to deal with this inflammation. And she's got a list of all these drugs. And I looked at her and I said, this is what happens to, and I'm just going to blame America because this is where I grew up and this is where I live, is that you got a sprained ankle when you're 12, no big deal. You'll be fine, kid. Take a couple ibuprofen, wrap it, you're fine. They don't get that chiropractically fixed and realigned. What's going to happen is over years, it's going to tighten up. The brain's going to make a decision. We're going to tighten another area up. You're going to get compensations. Then you're going to swell. And the brain's going to say, we got to raise blood pressure because we got to get the swelling out of there. You're going to put pressure on the heart. The heart starts to have a little bit of an issue, so you have breathing issues. You back in that system up. You back up the digestive system up, and your lymph system starts. And you got and that's why people get old and they get brittle and they get all these distortions and they get sick and they die.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be over dramatic, but you got to stay flexible and make sure your injuries are taken care of, because what's going to happen is you're going to walk your way right into heart disease or any other, of these problems. So it's not a matter of, it's just flexibility. It's about staying out of a nursing home. So,
right.
Well, and I would just say that, you've got, we're talking about flexibility, but when you lose flexibility, you become less inclined to want to move at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's feel good.
And we're hearing, that sitting is the new smoking, and being sedentary is horrible for your health, and the best way to avoid the Grim Reaper is to keep moving. And here's a situation where the flexibility is influencing all of those things.
Yeah, it's like reverse goal setting. Typically you're trying to improve a little bit each day, but with flexibility, you're regressing every day. You're getting worse. In
the event that you're not doing anything, to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, if you're not actively maintaining that. Well, just to summarize, we talked about stretching, foam rolling, and chiropractic, and basically all these things. It's about working those muscles, that fascia, nourishing your nervous system, keeping that healthy. And those are the things that are going to let you live a longer life, an independent life, and keep you out of a retirement home, because those places aren't fun. I drive by one every day, and there's always an ambulance there every single day.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Well, I know we're running out of time, but the statistics are if you reach the age of 65, you've got over a 50% chance that you're going to end up in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And if that happens, over 50% of those people never leave. And now that I'm getting closer to 65, I go, gee, I don't want to end up in a nursing home because there's a bigger chance I'll never leave. And when you go walk around the hallway of nursing homes, you don't ever see people in a nursing home who are flexible. So you might want to start being flexible and train your range of motion and do all that stuff, because it is money in the bank. You don't see people in nursing homes who are super flexible and have good posture.
Can I add a thought to that?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like, you have to suddenly do like this 4-hour stretching marathon every day.
Right.
We're talking start small, like 5 minutes a day.
Oh, sure.
And maybe go to the chiropractor maybe once.
Right.
Start small,
Yeah.
but do it every day. And you're not going to see a huge difference in a day or two, most likely. But if you do it for a year,
Oh my gosh, life
That's
you'll
changing.
be a totally different person, particularly if you've got a lot of flexibility issues. I mean, you started more earnestly in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
This guy, you couldn't touch your toes.
That's
You know, you're a young guy. You can't touch your toes,
That
right?
is really bad.
Yeah, he's gonna pick on you now. But
Yeah.
but this today, you were showing me. You're like, look, like I mean, we're talking about this much increase, you know, and this is just a few weeks of effort. It wasn't like he stretched once and all of a sudden he could touch his toes.
Yeah.
But now he's, you know, and you know, to
Yeah.
your credit, I mean, you see the importance of flexibility.
You tend to get a little worse when you first start stretching. Didn't you get sore?
Oh yeah, it hurts a lot. I mean, your bones hurt.
Right.
I mean, it's weird.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm doing the stretching thing. It hurts. I'm gonna quit.
Yeah,
But I mean, no, you stick with it and you get better.
absolutely.
Well, and you don't have to do it to the point to where it's painful.
Right.
yeah,
Like you should be a little sore after you do it, but you don't have to go so. And I think that's a mistake that some people make is they go gung ho on
Right.
it,
Too far.
Yeah.
and then they're discouraged and they quit. You know, so it's just ease into it and just stay. It's about not quitting
absolutely.
more than it is the intensity.
And guys, it's a true like doctor within opportunity because no one else can stretch for you, right? Like that, it's truly embracing the doctor within. Like this is something for your health that only you can do for yourself. So you got to start doing it. And that's
Good
our
topic.
show.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was
Way
a
to
good
go,
one.
John.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks, guys.
Nicely
Yeah.
done.
That's a wrap.